Okay, so for this session, we'll be looking at modeling and we'll just look at the basics of creating a simple structure. So we'll get straight into it. So if you haven't opened up your project already, open that up. By now, we should have a topper surface with a building pad. You want to make sure your building pad's quite big. Mine's 34 meters across and 20 meters back. Again, we will be creating a house-like structure. We will be creating a basic house on top of this. But before we actually start creating the house, we'll look at how to create a pathway leading up to our building pad. So either a driveway or just a simple pathway. So there's a few options of what we can do to create that. So first we'll look at how to create a driveway. So it's simply adding another building pad, but putting a slope onto it. So the first thing we'll do when creating our driveway is that first we will go into our elevation and we will add another level to show the endpoint for our driveway. So to add another level, I'll just stop my video. If you go into the architecture tab and go into the right hand side, you'll see the level tool here. Just want to click that. And over here, we can start making our new level. So if this is the endpoint where you want your driveway to end, again, just click once and then you'll get the option to drag this out. Left click again, and if you press escape and click on this little icon here, you can move it, just putting it over this circle icon. So move it out of the way. Now this level should pop up in your project browser. You can simply rename it. I'll rename it end of driveway. Now the reason we add, and you'll say yes onto the corresponding. Now the reason we add another level is to identify where we want the pad to end. So it will probably start at this level 1 here. And then the reason we put another level is so we know where it should end. So what we want to do now is we want to go back onto site. We want to go into massing site. Again, we want to make another building pad. You can make a tool to create the outline. So I'll just create a simple rectangle. Now with the building pad, you want to make sure that it's inside the topography. If it's not, you'll get an error box saying it can't extend beyond the top of surface. So you just want to make sure it's inside. It can be just inside as so. And then before we finish it off, we want to add a slope arrow. Now with the slope arrow, we want to start at our bottom point. So at this endpoint there, and then we want to go all the way to the top. Now if you press escape on your keyboard and then select the arrow itself, you'll see the properties for our slope. Now what we want to do is that on the specify, we want to go into height at tail. There's two options. We'll look at the slope option next after this, but we'll use the height at tail option. And at the height at tail, we want to change this to our bottom level, or that new level that we made that goes down. For the height offset, we'll just change this, keep it at 0. And at the level at the head, we want to change that to level 1, which is the level of our building pad. So once that's done, once there's no offsets, just go apply and then press the green tick. If we go back onto our work, our 3D view, we can see we've got our new driveway. And again, because it's a building pad, it excavates through the ground as so. Now the second option for this slope, so if I go back onto my site, go back onto the building pad, what you can do is that if you have a specific slope that you want, you can change this to the slope option here. And again, because we want the level at the tail to be at the end of the driveway, or you can just put it as default. In general, if you have a specific slope, say that you want the driveway to be 7 degrees, you just have to put in that number in the slope dimensions in the properties box, press the green tick. However, if we go back into our work, you'll see it's quite risen off the ground. Okay, all you have to do is go back into your elevation view, and using the arrow keys, you can simply just drop it down and zoom up, and you can make it nice and flush with your building pad. So the more you zoom, the more accurate it becomes. And then we can see that we've got our new building pad. So use that slope option if you have a specific angle that you want, or use the specify height at the tail option, or specify the height at the head option if you've got certain levels that you want the building pad to go to. So that's the first way, how to create a pathway using the building pad. We can also use a subregion. What we want to do is, if we go back onto site, and on the same massing and site tools, if we go to subregion over here, we can draw an outline again. Now what a subregion does is that it pretty much just splits the subregion and changes the material of the top of surface. So I'll show this real quick. So if I just quickly press the green button, so it doesn't add another layer or add another, or kind of excavate the ground. It just splits the top of surface. So if we look here, again, we can just see different material. Now, if you want this to go flush against your level, what you will need to do is that you will need to find out the actual height of your level. So again, if it's 4,000 or 4 meters, what we can do to the top of surface is that we can add more points and then make it flush for that subregion. So if we go back onto site and we click out topography, go edit surface, and then if we go place point, or if we just delete those, it's from the previous. So if we go place point, change the elevation to 4,000 because that's where our building pad is. If we go along this line here for our pathway or for our subregion, click the tick button. If we go back into our work, we can see that the pathway is quite nice and flush. Okay, so this is quite ideal using the subregion just for identifying a pathway. If you want to put in an actual maybe driveway, something more sturdy, or something showing excavating the land, or something more flat, probably use the building pad. So those are two ways, two basic ways to really create a pathway to your site. What we'll do now is that we'll get into the actual building, or the basics of creating a structure. So what we want to do first is that we always want to start off with a floor. Okay. So you can make the floor as big as you want. Again, I'll start off by just doing 12 by 20. Again, you want to make sure that building pad's quite big. You want some space around your structure as well. Okay, so that should be good enough. Now we can see that we can't see our floor. That's because, again, it's straight onto level 1, so it's overlapping with our building pad. So to kind of create a difference in height, what we'll do is that we will create a section view. So if we go into the view tab up the top and go section, what we need to do first is left click and then left click again, drag the mouse down so you're cutting through the whole project. Again, you can change the angle of the section, but if you just left click once, move the mouse down, click again, you'll get the option to change the view range of your section. Okay, so if you only want the section to show this much, so whatever's in this box here will be shown in the section. So if I drag this out, it will show the whole project in terms of how far you can see into it. Okay. It also should create a new section view in your project browser. Just pop that open and we can see it here. Okay, to get rid of this crop box in your properties, scroll down to extents, untick crop view and crop region view, go apply. Now if we zoom up, we can see our floor is here and our building pad is there as well. Now what we can do is that in our properties box, we can offset the height of the building pad. If we want it to be quite flush, or exactly what we want to do is that we want to find out the thickness of our floor. So to find out the thickness, all you have to do is select the floor, go to edit type, and we can see our default thickness is 262. Also as well, if you want to change the thickness of a floor, all you have to do is go to edit, and these are the numbers that contribute to the thickness. You can change these numbers as you want. Okay, so if you want it to be maybe 250 on the dot, what you can do is that you can adjust these numbers here. So I might make this 300. So what I can do is that I can just add another 150. Oh, jokes. I want to make that another 50. So if I go OK, the thickness changes to 300. If I go apply, it should show up in the project. So if I go OK, so since our thickness of the floor is 300, what I can do to drop this down is I just go on the height offset, go minus 300, and it should be nice and flush sitting with our floor. You want to do the same thing for your other building pads as well. Again, I'll just change this back. So if I go back onto the site, so this building pad was using just the slope option. So if I change this back to height at tail, and go to end of driveway, and go to level 1. Now then I'll add my height offsets so it sits along with our other building pad that's below 300. And yeah, that should be nice and flush with that one as well. So if we go back into our section view, again, we can see here our sloping building pad or our driveway per se, nice and flush with our other building pad. And we can see that our floor sits nicely on top of our building pad as well. So again, you want to play with those height offsets. Again, you don't want kind of these floors and objects overlapping too much. Okay, so now that we've got our floor and nothing's overlapping it, we can go back onto level 1. Now, what we want to do now is that once we've got a floor, we want to go onto our wall tool. Okay, what we can do, all you have to do really is just click on the icon itself. And now there's different options in terms of how it's drawn on. If you go into wall center line, what will happen is that when you start drawing, the wall be located, or we'll use the floor, the end of the floor line as the center for the wall. So you'll have an overlap. Again, this might be quite good if you have a cavity, depending on this kind of structure that you want. But again, with the wall tool, it's different kind of locations. So if I want the finish base exterior to be on the inside, okay, it uses the floor as that line. There's different options, so you can play around with those. The default option is using the wall center line. Okay, so to pretty much draw the outside walls, all you have to do is that it should snap onto the floor. And we'll see this pink box here. All you have to do is left click. If you go to the next corner, you'll see a pink box. Left click again, left click. So we'll create just 4 walls to start off with. And automatically these walls should join up. Again, we've got our exterior structure. We want to make sure that's outside. Okay, so we can see we've got our exterior structure on the inside. So to change that, all you have to do is that you just press this double arrow key, change the wall's orientation, make sure that's facing outwards, depending on the type of wall you have as well. So you just want to make sure that's facing outwards. Okay, and now we've got our outside walls. We can add some more walls inside. Now with the wall tool, if you click on this button here, we can select the different types of walls that have been loaded into the project. Now these should be automatically loaded. Okay, so you've got plenty of other different types of walls. Okay, I'll just use the generic. Okay, this is just for our basic. It's pretty much just, again, if you want to have a look at the different types of structure, again, it's just the default wall. So I'll just use this for our demonstration. Okay, and you can start creating, or you can start to create rooms inside your building now. Okay, so what we'll do is I got everyone to design just a simple layout. Again, you can always adjust the sizes of these rooms. To move the wall, all you have to do is select it. You can move it manually, side to side, depending on where the wall is. So up and down, all you have to do is select it, then hold down the left mouse tool and you can move it. If you select multiple, again, it should adjust the size depending on what arrows you use. If you use the arrow keys, if you go up and down, side to side, again, it will adjust the room sizes of these walls. So you just want to create some rooms. Again, you can always adjust them inside here. To adjust the measurements, what you can do is that with Revit, it gives you the options to change the dimensions. So if you want this corridor to be maybe 2 meters, you enter, the walls will change to adjust these as well. Okay, so it doesn't matter too much how big the room is. You can add more rooms if you want to. Now, once you've got some rooms, what you can do is we can start adding in doors. Now, right next to the wall tool, we've got our door tool to our right. Just click on that. And on our door selection or door type selector, there's different types of doors. Okay, so for the interior, you can kind of see your generic interior doors. So I'll just use these wide ones. Now, before you add in doors, you have to make sure you've got walls. Okay, you can't put doors in empty space. Okay, they automatically attach to the walls. So all you have to do is that it shows you kind of wherever you put your mouse, the door will go snap onto the wall. So if you left click, okay, puts in the door, left click again to add in more doors. I might add another wall. It's right here. Add another door over here. Okay, now we've got some interior doors. I'll add some exterior doors. Let's have a front one here. We'll have a back one here. Now to change the orientation of these doors or the direction, again, we have these double arrow keys. Okay, so if I want to flip, again, the way the door's facing, okay, I'll use that tool. I'll use this arrow here if I want to change which way, again, it opens. Okay, use these double arrow tools to change the direction. Okay, so I'll make the doors open inside. So I'll flip that. And again, you can change the distance between the door and the walls itself. You can change these little distances here. So you can have a certain distance. That's the cool thing about Revit. It gives you the option to adjust these minor. So I'll change that, add minor measurements between the walls and the doors. Okay, so now we've got some doors. What we can do is that we can go into Windows. Now again, on our Windows tool, we've got our type selector here. We can select our different types of windows. Okay, again, with the doors, you need a wall to put a window on. Okay, so if I select this one, again, the windows snap onto the walls wherever our mouse is. Okay, so you can play around with this. Okay, all you have to do is click once. Again, you can show which way it's facing. Usually we want this facing outwards. We want the aluminum frame to be on the outside. And again, we got different types of windows as well. Now with the windows and doors, we are quite limited on the Revit library. So if you go into the wall tool or the door tool or the window tool, there's not much here in our type selector. So if you want to load more, what you can do is that, again, we want to make sure we're on that window tool or the door tool. You can go into load family. Now this should open up a window and it should lead you to the metric library. So depending on what type of computer you're using, if you're using your own computer, the metric library downloads or it's automatically downloaded when you download Revit. If you're using a university, it should have an imperial library and a metric library. If you go into components, if you go into doors and windows, so if I go into Windows, we've got a few more different options. Some of the university computers as well don't have too many other options. Okay, but using the metric library, there's a few other options as well. So I'll import this one. So yeah, if you want to import one of these into your projects, all you have to do is select one. This is maybe this one, and you just press open. And what it should automatically do is that it should automatically load into your type selector. And it should have the different types of measurements and different, again, different iterations of that model. Okay, again, you just want to put those into your wall. You can always play around with the placement as well. Again, you want to make sure that's facing outwards. Okay. Now with the placement, what you can do is that you can change the sill height. Okay, so if that's 1.7 meters up, I can change that to maybe 13 and should adjust the height there. Okay, so that applies for all the windows. Okay, so if you want to add a certain height, it should already, if you go to the properties tab, it should have the sill height and you can adjust the height there. Again, if you want to move the location along the wall, just go into your plan view and move it there. If you want to adjust the window manually, what you can do is if you go into edit type, you can change the height and width. But before you change the height and width, what you want to do is you want to go duplicate and you just want to create your own name for that. So if I want to make this quite big, I'll say 1800. We'll go times maybe 600. So I'll go okay. So you're gonna make sure you duplicate. Otherwise, if you don't, whatever measurements you change in here will change all the other windows in there. So if I change this to 600, change this to 18, go okay. Again, those should apply, but that only applies to the duplicated model that you made onto that. Okay. So again, when you go edit type, you want to make sure you go duplicate and then make your own. Because if you don't, it will adjust all the other windows that are associated with that model. Okay, so I'll show you real quick what will happen. So since this is the same model as this one, if I go into edit type and I just automatically just change this to maybe 700, if I go apply, what will happen? It changes that one as well. Again, because it's the same type, it will change the dimensions of all those other windows that are the same type. So if it's a specific window that you want to change, make sure you press that duplicate tab, just so you don't change all the other windows. Otherwise, you might have a long time changing them back. Okay, so that's the windows. Again, the same thing for doors as well. If you go into load family on the door tool, using the door tool, and if we go back to our metric library, go components, again, doors. Okay, we can see there's not too many other options. If we want a timber door, and go open, and then it should load into our type selector. Okay, so we've got our different types of doors that we can use now, and this is the one I just imported from using that load family tool. So again, if I go back onto level 1, and let's say also as well, you can change the type of door by just selecting it. So you don't have to add another door. What you can do is that if I just select that door and I scroll down and I use this one and I select this one, it should automatically change. Okay, so it just stops you from adding another door and putting it in position. So if it's already in the right position, all you have to do is in the type selector, change it up there. Okay, same thing with the windows. You can change the heights or the widths to these doors. So if I go into edit type and I want this door to be massive, what I can do is that since it's already quite big, if I change this to maybe 1 meter, the name doesn't matter too much, but it's just a good idea to show how big it is. And I want this to be 2.5 meters, just for example. I can change this on the height and on the width, change it to meter. I go okay. You can see it's quite big. Again, say project. And we can see that it's quite big. Again, these walls are 2.5 meters high. But it's the same kind of process and principle when we're changing the specific details of a window. Okay, you want to make sure you press that duplicate, otherwise it will change all the other dimensions of the same model that you have. Okay, so that's how you edit those kind of components or those doors and windows manually. Again, the important part is always duplicate that and rename it. It will also pop up in your properties tab, showing the different types of that model, and it should pop up there. So that's the one that we have. Again, if you want to change it back, just select that and it should go back to normal. So that's pretty much our doors and windows. If you want to find some more interesting doors and windows, there is a website called Revit City. Now this has thousands and thousands of different components, not only doors and windows, but furniture as well. The next session will look at more components such as furniture, scale figures, trees, cars, and a lot of those different other objects. But it also has a lot of different models for doors as well. You will need to create an account. You put in your email address, and once you've got that account, you can download thousands of models. I haven't had too many issues with the site. It does look a bit sketchy. I'll also link in another few websites that I've used, but this is the main one that I've used. So pretty much you can just download this model straight away, downloads it as a Revit file or Revit family file. So I've downloaded one already. It should look something similar to again, it should have the Revit family file or Revit, yeah, what it is, Revit family. So if you just double click this and you go into Revit, it will say upgrade the model. Now, a lot of these models are pretty old. So you want to make sure you press the upgrade model and it will automatically upgrade the model. Now we can see our sliding door. So I've imported a sliding door. We can see there's a wall here. The wall doesn't import into the project with the door. It's just there because, again, with these doors or with these windows, you need a wall to attach them to. So what I can do here is I can load this project or load this sliding door into my project. You can either load it here and have it open if you want to edit it, or you can just load it in and close the project. Now with that loaded in, I can now put it onto one of my walls. So if I put it on there, go back onto my 3D view, we can see we've got a new sliding door there. Again, if I want to edit the heights, just let me reframe it. If you wanted to edit the heights, what you have to do is that you have to go to edit family. This is for any of the models that you import, and then you'll have to adjust the sizes of them from there. You can do this manually, or you'll have to do this manually, but it's quite difficult as well if you're just starting out with Revit. So we'll just close that. But once you've imported or loaded a family or a door or a window, it should be loaded into your project forever pretty much. So if you delete it, there should still be an option to select it. Okay, so we'll go on there. And then again, it's probably ideal to put them in using our plan view. Okay, so that's pretty much the windows and doors, kind of just like a basic overview again of how to adjust the size of them. Again, using Revit City or the different kind of websites, you can import more nicer models of doors, more nicer windows, sliding doors as well, bifold doors. There's quite a few different models for the doors and windows. So you'll have to have a look at them once you use those websites. But they're quite quite nicer than really the Revit default doors and windows. So we'll go into our roof next. Okay, we've covered floors, walls, doors, and windows. Okay, just a basic part. But we'll go into how to add in a roof. Now, when we add in a roof, what we want to do is that we want to go into our highest next level, which is our level 2. It's a bit better because it's if we go into site, it'll be quite high up when we actually build it. You'll see soon. Okay, with our level 2, it looks quite weird. What you can do if you want to see what it looks, or if you want to see a level 1 underneath, is that if you scroll down to overlay or underlay, press level 2. If we change this to none, in a driveway, apply. If we go down to view range, what we can do is that if we choose the bottom plane, we can go into level. If we go apply, jokes. Go unlimited, go apply. Yeah, so you want to make sure that on the view depth, you go unlimited, just so you can see everything underneath. So it's quite useful to see, again, when you're creating a roof, the walls and the floors, so you can create a nice overhang on top. So when creating a roof, what we want to do is that we get the option to draw the outline of it. And what you can do is that you can either just create a box itself, or if you want it to be a specific distance from the house. So if you've got a specific distance that you want, say it's 500 mils from the outside of the wall, what you can do is that you can go into this green pick lines button here, and then go offset and go 500. Now what will happen is that whatever line I select, it will go 500 mils off that line and create another boundary line. Again, depending on the mouse position, you want to make sure that this dotted line here, I'm not too sure if you can see it, but you want to make sure this dotted line is on the outside. Left click. Okay, going back onto the outside of the wall, you want to make sure the dotted line's on the outside. If it's on the inside, again, it will be inside the project like that. Okay, so we want to make sure it's on the outside. Yeah, so again, we want to make sure this is on that 500 on the desired length that we want it to be. Okay, again, you can just drag these lines out, holding down the left mouse button. When you see that pink box, that means they're connected. Again, we just want to drag that out. And the line should snap so that they should automatically meet. Okay, so now we've got a nice outline, 500 mils overhang across all 4 walls. Now what we want to do now is that we want to add a slope arrow. Okay, so if I don't add a slope arrow, what will happen is that I'll just get a flat roof. Okay, so now to add some slopes or to create a pitched roof, what we want to do is similar to this building pad here. When we used a slope arrow, we want to create, we want to use the slope arrows for our roof. Okay, so what will happen is that you want to go into the slope arrow tool, and then so if you want a mono pitched roof, what you can do is pretty much just draw 1 arrow, and then we'll leave it at that. So if I just press the green tick button, don't need to worry too much about this. For this one, I could probably use the slope option. 30 degrees is quite steep, so if I just change that to maybe 5, go apply, press the green tick button, we can see we've got a nice single slope roof. To create a pitched roof, what we want to do is we want to add another slope arrow to our roof. So if we edit our roof, what we want to do, we can just delete that, is that we want to add 2 arrows pointing towards the middle of our roof. So what I'll do, I'll just draw a boundary point just to find the middle of our roof. Yeah, I will need to delete this afterwards. I'll go down to slope arrow. Again, this triangle just shows you the midpoint of the roof. Then I'll add another slope arrow. And I'll join up to the middle. Okay, I want to delete this line here. That was just to show the middle. Okay, now you want to select onto the actual slope arrow. You're going to change this to slope. You can keep it at the height at tail. If you do this option, you will have to create another level to show where you want the ridge to be, or the height of the ridge. And then at the height, so that would be the level of the head. Okay, so you would create another level. But for this option, we'll just use the slope option. Okay, and we'll just, again, I'll just change this to 5. Okay, so that's for that slope arrow. For this one, I'll have to do the same thing. Again, to change it, go into the constraints, go into the specify drop down, select slope and dimensions, change this to 5, or a more shallow angle that you want to. And then once I've got these 2 slope arrows, these will create a simple pitched roof. So if I press finish, okay, if I go into work, okay, we can see we've got a nice, pretty shallow pitched roof. Okay, again, if you want to adjust the angles of them, select the slope arrow, change the angle itself. You can change the angle of just one of the arrows. Okay, so I can change this to 9 and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, and we can see the change the angle. So whenever you change these slopes, again, the ridge line will be adjusted. Again, this is just something you can play around with. Okay, I'll show another option to create a hip roof. Okay, so I'll go back onto side here, edit footprint. Okay, I'll change this back to 5. Now, if I add in 2 more arrows coming in from these sides, okay, it should create a hip roof. Okay, again, we just want to bring these to the middle. Again, we will have to adjust the slope of these. Okay, you have to do this for every slope arrow. I'll change that to 5. This one, and again, press down on the slope, change to 5, go apply. Okay, and if I press the green tick button, we get a nice hip roof. Okay, you can see, again, it's quite equal. That's because we use the midpoints. Once you start changing the angles of these lines, it will adjust the lines of the roof. Okay, so if I move this one, say here, I'll move this one here. Okay, it does kind of adjust it a bit. Again, the direction of these arrows does affect the ridges of the roof as well. So you can play around with it. Okay, there are other options when creating the roofs as well. You can create a roof from an extrusion. So if you've got a really difficult shape or really wavy shape, you can use this tool, but just for the basics, we'll just keep it into the footprint. Okay. So I'll just change this. So I'll just keep it a hip roof. So you can make any kind of roof that you want. I'll keep it at this one. I'll change the angle or the slope of this. Okay, I'll make it a bit sharper, just a bit. And I'll change this to 7 degrees. Go apply. Now, once you've got your roof structure in our section view, what you can do is that you can bring it down if you want to, depending on what level you want. It is associated to a level. So since we started this on level 2, okay, it's sitting just above level 2. Okay, so if you want to, you can bring the roof down or you can bring the walls up. Now, to attach all the walls to the roof, what we need to do is that we need to select all the walls. So what you can do, easier way is if you go into your level 1 setting or your level 1 view, you create a big selection. So just holding down the left mouse button and dragging out, creating a selection. You can go filter, check none, click onto walls, go apply. And then you can go into your 3D view and your wall should be selected. Now, what you want to do now is that there should be an option in terms of on the top here where it says attach top base on the modify walls part. Okay, we want to press that button. And now what will happen is that we need to select what we want it, or what we want to attach it to. So we want to select the roof, okay, and these walls should automatically join up to the roof. Okay, in our section view, we should see them joined up. Okay, and that's how we add our walls all the way up to our roof. So with the roofs, again, you can play around with the different angles. And again, if you want to attach them, all you have to do is press the attach top base. If you want to detach the walls, all you have to do, again, you have to select all the walls. Okay, go filter, go apply, go back to your 3D view, and there should be an option to go detach. If you press the detach top base and you select the roof, okay, it should go back to our regular heights or our default heights for the walls. So that's pretty much the basics in terms of building a structure. So again, you've got your roof tools, your walls, doors, and your floors. Again, you can adjust the thickness of these floors, go to edit type, same thing for the doors and windows. All you have to do is just go edit type. Just make sure that when you do edit the thickness, you press the duplicate tab or the duplicate button, and then that should finish it off. Okay, so I'll just finish this off by attaching these walls. Okay, and again, attach top base. If your selection of an object, or you have a multiple, or you selected multiple objects and it deselects, what you can do is if you go right click just anywhere on your view, you can go into select previous. Okay, and it should select what you had selected before. So it saves you time from actually going back and forth. Okay, all you have to do, again, go right click, select previous. I've already done it. So if I deselect, so I click out of it, go into select previous, it should select what I had selected before. And I'll go to attach top base. And as so. So again, you can play around with adding in windows, doors. Again, try out some of the websites that are linked down below. Download those different families of the different door families, different window families, and then you can start putting them into your project itself. But again, this is the basics of just creating windows, doors, floors. And then next week, we'll start looking at importing furniture, putting in scale figures, putting in trees, and maybe cars as well. So all those different objects are called components, and they all come under this tool here. Okay, these components are automatically loaded into my project. Okay, and we can see we've got some trees here. We've got parking spaces for some reason, a desk. Okay, we can access the library by, again, if we go back into load family. Okay, it should open up into our metric library. Okay, and we want to go into components. Okay, and now we see different categories. Okay, so if you have a few furniture pieces that you want to, okay, we've got beds, couches, drawers. Okay, we'll look at all these objects and putting them in and how to place them, and how to rotate them, how to make them bigger. It's a similar process as the doors and windows. Okay, you can just go edit type, make a table longer. Again, you will just have to duplicate it. So we'll go into more detail about that next week. But by now we should have a simple structure, closed building with some doors, some windows. Okay, you can adjust them as you want. Okay, but the main thing is that we now have an enclosed building. Okay, we'll go into components next week, and then we will see you then.